not like a McDonald's restaurant that just comes and is assembled. There's a certain uniqueness or bespoke feeling to it that it's not out of the packet. This is one of my favourite shots of the stadium.
Wow.
It's a great view from here.
Yeah.
That's the day when lots of people feel most Irish, even more so than St. Patrick's Day. So really it's iconic in lots of ways, and you have to be here, and then the people that come here will want to keep coming back to try and showcase our games to new audiences and the wider world. Not just our games, but also our way of doing it. This fantastic stadium, the culture that surrounds our games, and I can't think of a better way than doing that through the vehicle that is sport. Stay with your club. It's a lifelong engagement from the cradle to the grave, really. And it's more than just sport. It's at the epicenter of Irish life.
Yeah. Croke Park in Dublin is, without exaggeration, one of the most culturally significant buildings in all of Ireland. The stadium is the home of the Gaelic Athletic Association, the governing body for Ireland's indigenous sports of Gaelic football and hurling, but it's also much more than that. Originally built nearly 150 years ago, the stadium is inextricably tied to Irish identity, in part because of its close association with the GAA, and in turn because of the GAA's ties to the Irish independence movement. In many ways, it's a place that reminds the country's people what it means to be Irish. To understand how important Croke Park is to Irish people requires a brief lesson on the country's history and the conditions under which the GAA was founded. The late 19th century was a turbulent time in Ireland. The country was reeling from the loss of roughly a third of its population as a result of the 1847 Great Famine and subsequent refugee crisis. Those who remained in the country endured efforts by British rule to squash Irish cultural traditions, most notably the native Irish language. In 1884, against the backdrop of this cultural crisis, a group of 7 men met at a hotel in Turles, County Tipperary, to form the GAA, with the goal of modernizing and expanding traditional Irish sports, as well as preserving the native language and other elements of the culture. Today, there are some 2,200 GAA clubs in Ireland, plus another 400 around the world, a testament to the success of that original mission. So we're here at Croke Park, Dublin, Ireland. It's amazing to see the scale of it. And it's really, my sense of it is this is just like, it's a monument to Irish culture in a way, right?
Yeah, I suppose it's a cathedral of Irish sport. It's more than just Irish sport. It goes to the very essence of being Irish for lots of people. It's in our DNA. Really, it's sort of the nation's playground in lots of ways, and that lots of people have had some of their best days ever, either playing out there if you're one of the privileged few, or in the stands supporting the people who are out there.
Right.
So it goes back to the very formation of the state and beyond. So it's part of the emergence of modern Ireland in a very special way, and it really gets to the heart of our identity as a people. Where you're from, what part of the island you're from.
We're looking out here over an empty stadium. Tomorrow will be the All-Ireland final. It'll be packed, right? How can you contextualize for our audience the significance of the All-Ireland hurling final?
Well, at about 3 o'clock tomorrow, large numbers of Irish people everywhere, not just in Ireland. Those unlucky enough not to have acquired one of the 82,300 tickets to actually be here and hear the shrill blow of the whistle would probably base themselves either in a social setting, not in their home, perhaps a local GA club or local hostelry, and they'll watch it in a communal way. And that's really the essence of we come together to watch sport and enjoy the experience. But for me, what distills it after the warm-ups finish and after all our build-up and pageantry finishes, the 2 teams will parade tomorrow behind the Artane School of Music around the pitch. Everyone will take to their feet, wave their colours. That's the day when lots of people feel most Irish, even more so than St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
So really it's iconic in lots of ways, and you have to be here, and then the people that come here will want to keep coming back. And that's what the older people you'll hear tomorrow have been coming to these finals since the 50s, 60s and 70s. There's almost a tradition if you can acquire a ticket to keep doing that. And it's really it's a rhythm of an Irish summer for lots of people, albeit we've moved the dates. But for lots of people, they build their holidays and they build their summer movements around being in Dublin. It's very much in tune with the rhythm of Irish life. Hurling final day is a very special date in their calendars. It's at the epicenter of Irish life.
Yeah.
And the people who get to play out there have special places in their communities because they excel at our games.
Yeah.
And they're the epitome of everything that we think is good about Irish sport, and that these guys do it, and the ladies, for the love of the game. There's no payment involved.
Yeah.
That really, when you think about the commitment and the schedule they have, it resonates.
we're going to see here tomorrow 82,000 passionate fans, and it explains that passion, how it really is. It's so much of it's tied to your identity in a way that's so much stronger than a lot of other sports.
Yeah, your club especially, the best players from our club network are selected to play for your county, and tomorrow is the pinnacle of the games, really. If those men are lucky enough to go home with a Celtic Cross, which is the winner's medal, you know, they'll be remembered forevermore in their counties respectively. But the special connection between the people in the stands who will journey here tomorrow and the people who are displaying the skills on the field is really at the heart of everything we purport to represent, because they're the same people that live in our communities. They're not cocooned in mansions. They live at the heart of our community. They interact with our children. They coach them. And that's very, very special, because you don't normally get to play in a forum, in an arena such as this, and then go back into the community in that seamless manner.
Yeah.
And that pretty much captures the special nature of the whole thing, and it's never been more popular.
One of the defining characteristics of the GAA is the county system. I think our viewers are not going to really be familiar with that. Can you explain how that all works?
We've 4 ancient provinces of Ireland, and within those 4 provinces we've got 32 counties. So we've 9 in Ulster, 12 in Leinster, 6 in Munster, and 5 in Connacht. So if you're starting again in the morning, you ideally would like 3/8, but it didn't fall that way. Ironically, we inherited those lines on the map of the county structure from a British administrative perspective. So there's a certain irony into that, given that the reason for the GA being set up was to promote all things Irish, but it's worked really, really well. So if you go abroad or you meet new people, the first thing people ask is what's your name. The second question they're likely to ask is what county you're from, and then probably what club in that county you're from. So it's a real identifier. It's a real badge from the get-go, and it's worked really well. So traditionally, what happened in both football and hurling is one team emerged from each province every year, and they played in the All-Ireland semi-finals, and the 2 winners played in the final. But that had to change because the commitment levels to play the games had got so high. It wasn't deemed to be fair to ask players to do all that training for one knockout chance. And thankfully, it changed, because if it didn't, we would be deprived the opportunity to see our best talents. They might see them once a year and they were gone.
County teams are kind of like a local all-star team, right? You mentioned those local clubs, and then the best players from there are called up.
So the manager of Cork and Tipperary will have scoured the clubs. He can only select players from within the county, unless there's a player from there that's playing in another county for work reasons or marriage or whatever. But he will scour all the players in Tipperary to see who are the best players that I can bring in to mould a team to represent our Tipperary county team, or the same in Cork. So he's limited to that catchment area, and therein lies the beauty. Yeah. So everyone on the field tomorrow that we're going to see playing for Tipperary or Cork is from Tipperary or Cork, and that's a powerful message for young people. So if you go and watch Premier League soccer, for example, I'm not sure if there's any Liverpool-born players on the Liverpool team anymore.
Yeah.
And that's not just Liverpool, that's just the way it is, but it's apples and oranges compared to the amateur volunteer-led ecosystem that we have.
And so we mentioned how closely tied to Irish identity the sports are, right? And in some dramatic and tragic ways, you know, this site was the site of a massacre by the British on Bloody Sunday. What can you tell us about that?
As part of our turbulent history, the emergence of the GA almost coincided, firstly with the Cultural Revolution, but then the revolutionary period when Ireland sought to seek self-determination and its own independence. And in 1920, the British people came in here during a football match between Tipperary and Dublin and shot into the crowd. So blood was spilled on this pitch. One player, Michael Hogan, who played for Tipperary, fell over in the corner between Hill 16 and the Cusick stand. And this stand that we're standing in today is named after him. So a very, very dark day in the history of the GA, and by extension the history of the country.
Yeah.
And for lots of people in the struggle for independence, that resonated in the corridors of power in London.
Yeah.
Because a sporting event would have been deemed to should have been outside the realm of war, if you like.
Yeah, and it gives you chills, right, to think of all the history in this place, and then including, you know, even.
Yeah, and I'd argue it's one of the reasons why we never moved from here as an organisation. This is our headquarters, but it's forevermore. After that, it holds a special place in the hearts and minds of Irish people, even those Irish people who aren't involved in our games. It's Croke Park.
Yeah.
You know, and those two words just mean something special to people everywhere, Irish people everywhere. And increasingly, as you're aware, it hosts high-profile concerts. It's hosted the Pope. Lots of visiting dignitaries have come here. Muhammad Ali fought here. The Special Olympics was here. So it's not just about sport. It's obviously that's the primary raison d'etre of the stadium, is to put on the biggest games and the best sports we believe to be out there anywhere. But it's more than that. So lots of people come here for concerts. And Garth Brooks would have had 5 concerts here. Coldplay recently had 4. Oasis will be here for 2. So it's a question of utilising the stadium as best we can for the benefit of the organisation as a whole.
Yeah, every other event that comes in here, it benefits down to those small local clubs.
Yeah,
local
83% of what comes in here goes back out. We don't have extortionate player wages to pay. Obviously, we make a contribution to the players and their well-being through their organisation called the Gaelic Players Association. But 83% goes back out. And if you drive around Ireland any night of the week, you'll see impressive facilities with floodlights or clubhouses and pitches. The local community, by and large, raise the funds for that, but there are some financial assistance available through the form of grants, and that's only made possible by the gate receipts and the other commercial revenue that we generate via the inter-county game.
One thing we get as we look up here on this enormous pitch is you're seeing it's a lot bigger than a soccer or rugby pitch. It's bigger than an American football pitch. They'll have American football here. How does the spectator experience change as you're bringing in smaller pitch sports?
Well, it's different because you won't be as close to the play, obviously, but that's why we have the large screens, and we like to think that we offer a really enjoyable and immersive experience in the stadium thanks to the screens and the sound systems and everything else and the usual pageantry and spectator engagement plans that we have. But yeah, there's no doubting in my view that the field is best suited to air games. The sliotar in hurling travels such long distances, the field is perfectly suited. And the footballers kick the ball a considerable distance too, but you have to be very fit to play air games, and that's perhaps why they're 35 minutes aside, because there's a serious amount of exertion to get around the field. And played by 15 players, of course, the two of them. The markings are the same on the field for both football and hurling. So it's, look, first and foremost, the pitch dimensions and the markings are suited to air games, but we're happy that it can be utilised for other sporting pursuits when we're not using it.
What makes hurling such a fantastic sport?
Well, pick up a hurl and have that feeling of striking a leather ball called a sliotar through an ash stick, and just it's actually enjoyable. And that's before someone else hits you with their stick on your stick. So they're just great fun games to play. They can be perhaps hard to master at the start, but they're free flowing. They're short games in duration. They've lots of scores with very few stoppages. I defy anybody to sit down and watch the All-Ireland final tomorrow or the football final 7 days later and say, as a sporting spectacle, this is not enjoyable. Even if you're not particularly familiar with the players that are playing or what they're doing when they're on the ball, you'll soon get a grasp of it. They're not difficult sports to understand. It's very simple. It's one score. If it goes between the post and over the bar, and if it goes into the net as a goal, is the equivalent of 3 points. And it's the same scoring pattern for both games. So really, they're easy to grasp. They're enjoyable, they're physical, and the fanfare that builds up around them really lends itself to a special spectacle.
I think as an American, it's tempting to call this like the Super Bowl of Ireland, but it's not, because
I won't correct you.
No, because there isn't that cultural tie that we have with football. It's not like there isn't that same fraught history with Irish nationalism. There isn't that same aspect of the local representation down to those local clubs in small villages. You don't have that same sense of national pride that you do here with hurling.
Yeah, but there's probably a couple of things to that. First of all, to coin your phraseology, the Super Bowl of football and hurling, that means that it's a rinse and repeat, and that it's always here. And most of our big games in the All-Ireland series tend to be here as well, in the build-up to the final. Secondly, there's lots of other parallels. Obviously, the players on the field aren't professional. And while we do have a commercial aspect to our games, there are other important things to it, in that we don't have alcohol sponsorship, we don't have gambling sponsorship, and the ticket prices are quite different, let's just say. So there's lots of parallels, but there's also lots of differences. And I suppose that can be traced back to what sort of country has spawned these games and these competitions, and what is the norm in the country where they're hosted. And this just feels normal to us. This is our way of doing it. It works for us. We're always on the lookout for other sporting codes to see what they do. Is there anything we could improve on? But we're very proud of what we do here. We never be complacent or blasé. If we can take it on to another level, while at the same time respecting the core values of what it is we purport to represent, so be it. But I think the popularity of the games says that lots of people are happy with what we do. You've got to keep evolving, you've got to stay relevant, but there's lots of things that haven't changed a whole lot over the last 50 years and probably won't over the next 50 years either.
The Steelers and the Vikings will be here in late September. First NFL regular season game here. How does welcoming the NFL to Croke Park, how does that tie into the GAA's larger mission?
Well, our larger mission is to try and showcase our games to new audiences and the wider world. Not just our games, but also our way of doing it. This fantastic stadium, the culture that surrounds our games. And I can't think of a better way than doing that through the vehicle that is sport.
Yeah.
So, we're not even in competition for the hearts and minds of young people with American football, so it's not a rivalry. And even if it was, I don't think that would come into it. We have soccer and rugby here, rugby more latterly. But yeah, the audiences that those two teams reach and connect with are not audiences we readily connect with.
Right.
So it's an opportunity for us to put our best foot forward, show off our stadium in all its glory, and hopefully through interviews like this and other activity, is to give people a taster for our games. And I'd challenge people to come to Ireland and not connect with our games, because I think it will be a lesser experience if you miss out connecting in some shape or form with our games while you're here. The country went through a fairly turbulent period before it emerged into what it is today, and the games have been there all along.
Wow.
It's a great view from here.
Yeah.
I think at any time in any history of any country, when sport's always been a welcome distraction from the mundane, 5 or 6 days down in the mines for other sports, and when the country was going through difficult times, trying to assert its self-determination and seek its independence, people lean on sport for relief and for enjoyment, and that's precisely what happened. Thankfully today life is far simpler for most people, but sport, in a funny way, it's flipped in that now people recognise the benefits of being active and sporty in a way that perhaps they didn't half a century ago. It was always fun, but now people, I think, are placing a premium on being active and being fit. And there's lots of different ways of doing that. But for me, doing it in a team environment was great fun.
Yeah.
And making friendships and a network of friends that last forever. And then seeing your offspring doing exactly the same thing as your parents and your grandparents did. So there's something cyclic about it.